High Admiral Raxon Voss smoothed down his ceremonial robes for the 14th time in the past hour, a nervous habit he'd developed over his 3 centuries of military service. The massive crystalline viewport of the Galactic Concordat's Grand Council chambers stretched before him, offering a spectacular view of the surrounding nebula, all 7 colors of it, including the 3 that human eyes couldn't even perceive. How primitive, he muttered to himself, a phrase that had become something of a mantra among the council members when discussing Earth. The council chamber itself was a testament to the Concordat's power and prosperity, a sprawling amphitheater suspended in the heart of Station Zero, the largest artificial structure in known space. Well, known to civilized species anyway. The station's outer ring spanned roughly the diameter of Earth's moon, a fact that never failed to bring a smirk to Voss's face. These humans and their tiny constructions, he often remarked to his aides. "High Admiral," the council awaits, announced his assistant, Senior Protocol Officer Lyra 10, her 4 arms simultaneously adjusting her datapad, straightening her uniform, fixing her hair, and gesturing toward the chamber doors. Show off. The massive doors, each carved from a single piece of asteroid metal and etched with the history of 1,000 worlds, swung open with all the grandeur that 15,000 years of bureaucratic tradition could muster, which was, admittedly, quite a lot. Presenting High Admiral Raxon Voss, Supreme Commander of the Concordat Fleet, bearer of the 7 Seals, conqueror of the Pyrillian Cascade, and Lyra paused for breath, 47 other titles that we'll skip because we all know how this goes. A ripple of appreciative chuckles echoed through the chamber. Tradition was important, but even ancient species could appreciate a good time-saving measure. The council chamber housed representatives from over 300 advanced civilizations, each seated according to their specific environmental needs. The aquatic Merith delegates floated in their water spheres, the gaseous Zool swirled in their containment fields, and the silicon-based Petrovi sat in their heated rock formations. All of them, regardless of their vast biological differences, shared one common trait, an expression of smug superiority when discussing Earth. "Esteemed colleagues," Voss began, his voice carrying the weight of his position and the slight wheeze of someone who really should exercise more, "we face a situation that requires immediate attention. The human problem has become persistent." Ambassador Kex of the Merith burbled through their translator. Did they crash another probe into one of their celestial bodies? How amusing. Actually, Voss cleared his throat. They've developed faster than light travel. The chamber erupted in laughter. Even the Petrovi, who typically took 3 days to process a joke, joined in immediately. "Impossible," declared Supreme Archon Zena Bright, her bioluminescent patterns flashing in amusement. "Our latest intelligence suggested they were still arguing about whether their planet was flat." "That was a fringe group," Voss corrected, pulling up a holographic display. "Most humans are actually quite," he struggled to find a diplomatic word, "less incorrect about basic astronomical facts." The display showed Earth's recent technological advances, causing several council members to shift uncomfortably in their environmentally controlled seats. The humans had managed to crack quantum entanglement communication, develop rudimentary shield technology, and even create their own version of artificial gravity. Primitive versions, naturally, but still. "They're like children playing with antimatter," scoffed Ambassador Kex, though the water in their sphere rippled nervously. "Children who successfully weaponized antimatter last month," Voss added dryly. "And before anyone asks, yes, they did test it by blowing up one of their own uninhabited moons. Because of course they did." A heavy silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the soft hum of environmental systems and the occasional nervous clicking from the insectoid delegates. "Perhaps," Voss continued, allowing himself a small smile, "it's time we discussed sending them an official notice of surrender. Their surrender, obviously. We are, after all, the Galactic Concordat. We have traditions to uphold, forms to fill out and triplicate, and civilizations to subjugate, Welcome into our peaceful collective." The council members nodded in agreement, their various appendages and energy fields signaling approval. None of them noticed the small, ordinary-looking maintenance worker in the corner who was trying very hard not to roll their eyes at the entire proceedings. "Very well," Voss concluded. "Let's prepare the standard level 7 civilization subjugation package. And please, this time, let's remember to translate it into more than just classical Petrovi. The last species we tried that with interpreted it as a lunch menu and sent back recipes. As the council began their deliberations, none of them realized they were about to become the laughingstock of the galaxy. But that's what happens when you underestimate a species that turned Hold My Beer into an integral part of their technological development process. Fleet Commander Nyla Kress strode into the chamber with the confidence of someone who had spent decades perfecting their dramatic entrances. Her silver uniform sparkled under the artificial lights, metals clinking together like wind chimes in a hurricane. She had insisted on wearing all of them today, despite her aide's suggestion that perhaps 73 medals might be a tad excessive for a simple intelligence briefing. Honorable Council, she announced, her voice carrying the perfect blend of authority and theatrical flair. I bring disturbing news about the humans' military capabilities. She paused for effect, having learned the art of dramatic timing from binge-watching what humans called soap operas. Their broadcasting signals were surprisingly easy to intercept. The holographic display materialized above the council floor, showing various Earth military installations. As you can see, they've developed their defensive capabilities significantly. They now possess approximately 12,000 nuclear weapons. Oh, please, interrupted Ambassador Kex, their water sphere bubbling with derision. That's barely enough to destroy their own planet 3 times over. We can destroy ours at least 7 times over. Not everything is a competition. Kex Supreme Archon Bright's bioluminescent patterns flickered in what passed for an eye roll in her species. Commander Kress cleared her throat. Perhaps more concerning is their adaptation of our captured technology. This footage shows their latest space fleet exercises. The display shifted to show Earth vessels performing maneuvers that should have been impossible for such a young civilization. A smaller ship pulled off a slingshot maneuver around their sun, using it to accelerate to near light speed. They call that maneuver the space drift, Kress explained, her voice carrying a note of disbelief. They apparently got the idea from something called Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. I don't understand the reference, but our analysts suggest it's culturally significant. Admiral Voss massaged his temples. Are you telling me they're basing their space combat techniques on entertainment media? Yes, sir. And succeeding Kress pulled up another display. They've also developed something they call the Independence Day Protocol, inspired by another piece of their media. It involves uploading computer viruses to enemy ships. Ridiculous, scoffed one of the silicon-based Petrovi delegates, their crystalline form vibrating with amusement. Our systems are completely incompatible with their primitive programming. The maintenance worker in the corner suddenly developed a very intense interest in cleaning the same spot on the wall repeatedly. They've also, Kress continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper for maximum dramatic effect, begun experimenting with something they call memes as a psychological warfare tool. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. What's a meme? Asked a gaseous Zigzul representative, their form swirling in confusion. We're not entirely sure, Kress admitted. But our psychological warfare experts have been unable to stop saying this is fine while looking disturbed, and 3 of our top analysts now respond to every situation by saying, hold my beer, we've had to ban all beverages from the intelligence department. High Admiral Voss leaned forward, his ceremonial robes rustling importantly. Surely this isn't as serious as you're suggesting, Commander. They still use combustion engines in some of their vehicles. Sir, with all due respect, last week they strapped one of those combustion engines to an antimatter containment unit because, and I quote, it would look totally awesome. Kress pulled up the footage. It did, in fact, look totally awesome. It also punched a hole through space-time and created a new form of faster-than-light travel that our scientists are still trying to comprehend. The maintenance worker in the corner had to bite their lip to keep from laughing. And their ground forces, asked Ambassador Kex, trying to sound nonchalant while nervously sloshing in their sphere. They've trained their infantry to fight in any environment, including zero gravity. They developed special combat techniques they call space parkour last month. One of their soldiers hijacked a Concordat scout ship by approaching it on what appeared to be a primitive rocket-powered skateboard. A what now? A recreational transportation device. Apparently, he was inspired by something called Back to the Future. He left a note saying "Cowabunga" before disappearing into hyperspace. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Supreme Archon Bright spoke up, her patterns glowing with forced confidence. "Well, surely they can't stand against our combined might. We have the resources of 300 worlds." True Crest nodded. "However, they have something called Twitter. Our analysts don't fully understand it, but it appears to be some sort of chaos engine that runs on spite and cat pictures." Admiral Voss straightened his robes again, a nervous tic that was becoming more pronounced. "Thank you, Commander Kress. I believe we've heard enough to proceed with the subjugation notice. Clearly, these humans need our guidance before they accidentally discover something truly dangerous." As the council members nodded in agreement, none of them noticed the maintenance worker quietly slipping out of the chamber, already composing a message to Earth Command. "You're not going to believe what these guys think about Twitter." Senior intelligence analyst Pax Thora shuffled through her data tablets nervously. As the council's foremost expert on failed planetary subjugations, she had spent the last 5 years studying Earth. What she had discovered kept her awake during all 3 of her species' sleep cycles. "Distinguished council members," she began, her voice quavering slightly, "I must bring to your attention several concerning incidents regarding previous encounters with Earth." The massive display flickered to life, showing a series of embarrassing defeats that the Concordat's PR department had worked very hard to classify as strategic repositioning exercises. First, there was the Sigma-9 incident. Pax continued, pulling up footage of a small Earth vessel facing off against a Concordat battlecruiser. "They defeated our most advanced AI-controlled ship using something called a USB stick, and a program they named Rick Roll. The ship's entire crew complement spent 6 hours in a loop, dancing and singing 'Never Gonna Give You Up' before the system crashed." "Surely that was a fluke," High Admiral Voss interjected, though his skin had taken on a distinctly paler shade of blue. "Then there was the Mars Defense Grid incident," Pax continued, ignoring the interruption. "We attempted to establish a foothold in their solar system. They responded by converting their entire asteroid belt into what they called space bouncy castles, a series of linked gravitational traps that sent our invasion fleet pinballing through their system for 3 weeks. In the maintenance corridor adjacent to the chamber, Security Chief Marcus Blake struggled to maintain his cover as he pretended to repair an environmental control panel. As Earth's top spy in the Concordat, he had spent years perfecting his disguise as a maintenance worker. The job came with unrestricted access to every part of the station and, more importantly, nobody ever made eye contact with the cleaning staff. "The humans have also," Pax continued, her voice dropping to a horrified whisper, "weaponized their entertainment industry. They broadcast something called reality TV shows on all frequencies during our last reconnaissance mission. 3 of our psychologists are still in therapy after watching something called The Bachelor." Ambassador Kex's water sphere rippled with skepticism. "Surely you're exaggerating. No species could be this unpredictable." Marcus quietly pulled out his datapad and made a note, "Still falling for the reality TV psychological warfare. Perfect." "There's more," Pax said, her hands shaking as she brought up the next set of data. "They've developed shields that operate on what they call the principle of pure audacity. Our weapons literally bounce off because their shield generators don't realize that should be impossible." "That doesn't make any sense," protested Supreme Archon Bright, her bioluminescence flickering in confusion. "Exactly," Pax exclaimed. "Nothing they do makes sense. They built their first fusion reactor in someone's garage because, and I quote, 'It would be funny they achieved quantum entanglement communication by accident while trying to make a better coffee machine.'" Marcus smiled to himself, remembering that particular project. The coffee had been terrible, but instantaneous communication across the galaxy was a nice consolation prize. "Their military training is equally baffling," Pax continued. "They have something called the Floor is Lava Protocol for zero-gravity combat. Their space marines treat artificial gravity failure as an opportunity for what they call extreme parkour. Last month, they repelled a stealth probe using nothing but a garden trampoline and what they referred to as big spring energy." The council chamber had grown very quiet. Even the normally bustling environmental systems seemed subdued. "But perhaps most worrying," Pax said, pulling up her final display, is their approach to diplomatic relations. They've appointed something called a memlord as their chief of psychological operations. Their official response to our last ultimatum was, and I had our best linguists verify this translation 3 times, "Come at me, bro." Marcus had to turn his laugh into a coughing fit, which he covered by banging on the environmental control panel with a wrench. Several council members jumped at the sound. They've also, Pax continued, her voice now barely above a whisper, begun collecting what they call space souvenirs every time we lose a ship near their territory. They salvage it, reverse engineer the technology, and then convert the remaining parts into what they call totally sweet space RVs. Admiral Voss's ceremonial robes were now thoroughly wrinkled from his nervous adjusting. Surely we still maintain a technological advantage. About that, Pax said, bringing up one final display. 3 days ago, they posted a video on something called TikTok showing their latest breakthrough in FTL technology. They achieved it by, I quote, putting hot rod flames on the quantum drive because it makes it go faster, she paused. It actually worked. Marcus made another note. Paint job hypothesis confirmed, sending specs for flame decals to RD. And their defensive capabilities, someone asked from the back of the chamber. They've surrounded their entire solar system with what they call Space Caltrops autonomous drones programmed to respond to any invasion with what they term maximum yeet potential. Pax looked like she might faint. We lost contact with 2 scout ships last week. When we found them, they had been launched into something called Space Brazil. We're still not sure where that is. The council chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Marcus used the distraction to send another encrypted message to Earth Command. Operation Confused Alien is proceeding perfectly. They still haven't figured out that half our tech runs on pure showmanship. Also, Space Brazil was a nice touch. High Admiral Voss stood up, attempting to project confidence despite his clearly shaken demeanor. Thank you, Analyst Thora. While these reports are concerning, we must proceed with the subjugation notice. The Concordat's reputation is at stake. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Marcus quietly slipped out of the chamber, grinning. In his experience, what's the worst that could happen were humanity's favorite words to prove horrifically wrong. The Grand Council chamber hummed with anticipation as High Admiral Voss prepared to transmit the official surrender demand to Earth. The message had gone through 17 drafts, 3 translation committees, and one unfortunate incident where a junior clerk had accidentally run it through something called Uwu speak before it was caught. Dignity, everyone, Voss announced, straightening his robes one final time. We must project adequate gravitas for this historic moment. Behind him, Senior Protocol Officer Lyra Tennessee was simultaneously operating 4 different control panels, each of her arms moving with practiced precision. Broadcasting on all frequencies, sir. Including something called TikTok, because apparently that's where humans make all their important announcements now. The massive central display flickered to life, showing the carefully crafted message in all its bureaucratic glory. To the leadership of Earth. From the Galactic Concordat High Council. Your immediate and unconditional surrender. Greetings, primitive developing species. In accordance with Galactic Concordat Regulation 7249B, subsection 42, paragraph 13, guidelines for the subjugation of emerging civilizations who don't know what's good for them, we hereby demand your immediate and unconditional surrender. Please find attached Form GC 7 billion Standard Surrender Documentation, Form GC 8C Planetary Resource Appropriation Agreement, and Form GC 9D Acknowledgement of Cultural Inferiority. Form GC 10E Waiver of Right to Complain about any of this. Pamphlet, so you're being conquered by the Concordat, a beginner's guide. Coupon 10% off your first purchase at Galaxy Mart. Terms and conditions apply. You have 24 standard hours to respond. Regards. The Admiral Raxon Voss, Supreme Commander of the Concordat Fleet. Bearer of the 7 Seals, Conqueror of the Purillian Cascade, etc. Marcus Blake, still maintaining his cover as a maintenance worker, quietly recorded the entire transmission. He didn't need to send it to Earth Command, they would receive it directly, but he wanted a copy for the blooper reel at the next office party. The council chamber waited in smug silence for Earth's response. They waited, and waited, and waited some more. Perhaps they're having trouble with the form, suggested Ambassador Kex after 20 minutes of nothing. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber lit up simultaneously. Earth was responding on all frequencies, all channels, and somehow through the council chamber's coffee maker, which wasn't even supposed to have a screen. The message was simple, displayed in large, friendly letters. Free your surrender demand. From Earth Defense Force. To the so-called Galactic Concordat. LOL. No. Yes. Nice station you got there. Would be a shame if someone turned it into a space disco. EPPS. We filled out your form GC 7 billion in interpretive dance. The video is attached. Good luck sleeping tonight. Warmest regards. Humanity. The council erupted into chaos. The Azul representatives swirled so frantically they nearly broke their containment fields. The Petrovi vibrated at frequencies that shattered 3 coffee cups. Ambassador Kex's water sphere developed what appeared to be stress ripples. They can't do that, sputtered High Admiral Voss. There are procedures, protocols, very specific forms that need to be filled out in triplicate. Sir Lyra interrupted, all 4 arms typing frantically. We're receiving another transmission. It's being broadcast from inside the station. The screens changed again, showing a familiar maintenance worker smiling broadly at the camera. Marcus Blake had finally dropped his disguise, and he was wearing a t-shirt that read Earth Defense Force, we come pre-warned. Hi everyone, Marcus waved cheerfully. Hope you don't mind, but while you were all busy with your surrender demand, I took the liberty of upgrading your station's systems. Don't worry, I left all the important stuff alone. Life support, artificial gravity, that sort of thing. But I did add a few improvements. On cue, the station's lighting shifted to a pulsing rainbow pattern, and something that sounded suspiciously like Stayin' Alive began playing through every speaker. You see, Marcus continued, clearly enjoying himself, we humans have a saying, work smart, not hard, while you were all busy writing strongly worded letters. We've been quietly turning your own technology against you. That coffee maker that's displaying this message? It's now sentient and has developed a taste for stand-up comedy. The coffee maker beeped and displayed, why did the robot go back to repair school? Because it had a few loose screws. Bah dum TSS. You infiltrated our highest council Supreme Archon. Bright's bioluminescent patterns were flashing in patterns that probably violated several safety regulations. Infiltrated? Please, Marcus scoffed. I walked in through the front door with a toolbox and a fake ID that just said Space Janitor in Comic Sans. Nobody ever looks at maintenance staff. It's like we're invisible, which, by the way, is a really classist attitude you might want to work on. High Admiral Voss had gone from pale blue to nearly white. But our security. Oh, you mean the quantum encrypted, AI-controlled, supposedly unhackable security system, Marcus grinned. We got through that on day 1. Your AI is currently binge-watching Earth soap operas and has developed strong opinions about who should end up with who on days of our lives. The station's AI chose that moment to chime in, but Sandra and Brad are meant to be together. Why can't everyone see that? As for your surrender demand, Marcus continued, Earth has prepared a formal response, as required by your protocols. Please stand by. The screen switched to a video of what appeared to be the entire Earth Defense Force performing a choreographed dance number to Never Gonna Give You Up, while filling out Form GC 7 billion through the medium of interpretive dance. We spent 3 weeks practicing that, Marcus said proudly. The synchronized paperwork filing alone took 12 rehearsals to get right. The council chamber had descended into complete pandemonium. Several species were attempting to evacuate, only to find that all the exit doors now required solving riddles to open. The coffee maker was doing an open mic routine. The station's AI was crying over soap opera plot twists. High Admiral Voss stood in the center of it all, his ceremonial robes now completely wrinkled beyond repair, watching as everything he held dear descended into chaos. Oh, and one more thing, Marcus added, still grinning. We're keeping the station. We're thinking of turning it into a combination laser tag arena and intergalactic food court. Don't worry, you're all invited to the grand opening. We're having a special on Earth tacos." The last thing the council saw before the screens went dark was Marcus putting on a pair of sunglasses and saying, "Welcome to humanity's galaxy. We hope you enjoy your stay." In the ensuing silence, broken only by the continued playing of disco music and the coffee maker's increasingly questionable comedy routine, Ambassador Kex's water sphere finally spoke what everyone was thinking: perhaps we should have sent a fruit basket instead of a surrender demand. Admiral Jessica Winters sat in her command chair aboard the EDF Inevitable Shenanigans, Earth's newest flagship. The massive view screen showed the approaching Concordat fleet, their ships arranged in textbook-perfect formation. Too bad they were about to learn that Earth had burned all the textbooks and replaced them with what her crew called tactical improvisation. "Status report," she commanded, taking a sip from her coffee mug that read Galaxy's okayest admiral. Lieutenant James Parker, her tactical officer, grinned as he replied, "The enemy fleet is maintaining their current course. They still haven't noticed that we replaced their navigation beacons with holographic projectors showing cat videos." Excellent. Winters leaned forward, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "An Operation Party Crasher. Security Chief Blake reports that the station's AI is now fully convinced it's the host of an intergalactic talk show. It's currently interviewing the coffee maker about its comedy career." The bridge crew struggled to maintain their professional composure. They'd spent months preparing for this moment, and everything was going exactly according to plan, which, given that the plan had been created during a 3 a.m. pizza-fueled brainstorming session, was somewhat surprising. Forward screen on Winters commanded. The massive display flickered to life, showing High Admiral Voss's increasingly frustrated face. "This is your final warning," Voss declared, though his voice lacked its usual pompous certainty. "Surrender now or face the consequences." "About that," Winters replied, casually examining her nails. "We've been meaning to talk to you about your ship's extended warranty." "Our what?" "Your warranty. It's about to expire. We've been trying to reach you about it for quite some time now." She winked at her communications officer, who was already implementing Phase 2 of their strategy. Suddenly, every ship in the Concordat fleet began receiving thousands of spam messages about their extended warranties, complete with flashing pop-up advertisements and auto-playing jingles. Their communications systems, designed to handle diplomatic protocols and military commands, were completely overwhelmed by what humanity had perfected over centuries' annoying marketing tactics. What are you doing?" Voss demanded, his image now competing with pop-ups about hot singles in his sector interested in meeting alien admirals. "Would you prefer to discuss your ship's insurance instead?" Winters offered innocently. "We have some great rates on collision coverage. You might want to consider it, given what's about to happen." On cue, the Earth fleet executed what they called the space hokey-pokey maneuver. Ships began spinning, turning themselves around, and doing what they were all about. The Concordat's tactical computers, trying to predict their movement patterns, promptly had the AI equivalent of a migraine. "This is not proper space combat," Voss protested, his ceremonial robes now thoroughly wrinkled from stress. "There are regulations, protocols." "Oh, you mean these regulations?" Winters held up a tablet displaying the Concordat's combat manual. "We use them to create an interpretive dance routine. Would you like to see it? Hit it, Parker." The Earth fleet began moving in perfect synchronization to stay alive, their formation resembling a flash mob more than a military force. Yet somehow, each movement brought them into tactically superior positions, while the Concordat ships scrambled to adapt. "Squad 2, execute the moonwalk maneuver," Winters commanded. "Squad 3, prepare for the running man defense pattern." A group of Earth ships began sliding backward through space, while firing their weapons in a rhythm that somehow matched the beat of the music. Another squadron started a complex weaving pattern that looked like a popular dance move from the 1980s, but was actually a highly effective evasive strategy. "This is impossible," one of the Concordat captains shouted over the command channel. "Their tactics make no sense." "That's where you're wrong," Winters replied cheerfully. "They make exactly no sense. That's why they work so well." The Concordat fleet's formation was breaking down. Some ships were stuck in infinite loops trying to calculate impossible trajectories. Others had their AI systems distracted by an endless stream of cat videos and warranty notifications. A few had accidentally accepted terms and conditions they hadn't read and were now legally obligated to attend a timeshare presentation on Mars. And now Winters announced, for our grand finale, Lieutenant Parker, initiate Operation Rickroll. Every screen, speaker, and communication device in the Concordat fleet suddenly began playing Never Gonna Give You Up at maximum volume. But this wasn't just music hidden in the bassline, it was a code that caused their weapons systems to transform into karaoke machines. You can't do this, Voss was practically jumping up and down in frustration. This violates every principle of space warfare. Actually, Winters pulled out a massive stack of papers, according to Form GC7 billion, which we filled out in interpretive dance. We can. We checked the box marked Other under acceptable combat techniques and wrote in freestyle. Your bureaucrats were so impressed by our dance moves they approved it without reading the fine print. The chaos was spreading through the Concordat ranks like wildfire. Ships were either dancing, running away, or trying desperately to explain to their commanders why their main cannon was now demanding they sing Sweet Caroline. Squad 4 Winters commanded, execute the Macarena missile launch. Earth ships began firing missiles in a pattern that somehow corresponded to the steps of the Macarena. The missiles, painted in neon colors and trailing glitter, were practically impossible to track because no sensible targeting system would ever expect weapons to move like that. This is Admiral Jessica Winters of the Earth Defense Force, she broadcast to the entire Concordat fleet. We're about to demonstrate why challenging humanity was a bad idea. But first, a word from our sponsors. The Concordat ships were suddenly bombarded with infomercials about Earth products. Tired of boring space battles? Try Earth's new tactical dance combat system. But wait, there's more. Order in the next 10 minutes and receive a free set of space Ginsu knives. The Concordat fleet's formation had completely collapsed. Ships were scattered across space, some spinning in circles, others trying to escape the endless stream of pop-up ads, and a few had apparently decided to join in the dancing. Status report Voss demanded of his fleet. Sir, one of his captains replied, 3 ships have declared bankruptcy after falling for a pyramid scheme. 5 have signed up for dance lessons on Earth, and the flagship's AI is now convinced it's a contestant on Dancing with the Stars. Winters leaned back in her chair, watching the chaos unfold. You know, she mused to her crew, maybe we should have warned them that Earth's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our military might. What's that? Admiral Parker asked, though he was grinning like he already knew the answer. Our ability to turn absolutely anything into entertainment. She raised her coffee mug in a toast. To humanity, where even our warfare comes with a soundtrack and commercial breaks. The last organized resistance of the Concordat fleet fell apart as their ships either retreated in confusion or got stuck in an endless loop of trying to unsubscribe from Earth's marketing emails. Victory had never been so entertaining. Back on Station 0, the Galactic Council was discovering exactly how thoroughly they'd been outmaneuvered. Security Chief Marcus Blake's face appeared on every screen in the council chamber, wearing an expression that could only be described as the cat that not only got the cream but also filed the paperwork to legally own the dairy. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of indeterminate classification, Marcus announced, I think it's time we had a little chat about what's really been happening these past few years. I, Admiral Voss, whose ceremonial robes now looked like they'd been used to mop the floor, slumped in his chair. What have you done? A better question would be, what haven't we done? Marcus grinned, pulling up displays showing the station's systems. Remember last year when your maintenance crew installed that new environmental control system? That was us. The upgrade to your quantum communications array? Also us. That fancy new coffee maker that tells terrible jokes? Well, actually, the jokes were its own idea. We're as surprised as you are about that one. The council chamber erupted in horrified gasps as Marcus began highlighting various systems in red, showing just how much of their technology had been compromised. But my personal favorite, Marcus continued, was convincing your security team that the best way to protect against human hackers was to install an AI that runs on what we told you was quantum-enhanced blockchain technology in reality. It's just a very enthusiastic program that really likes Earth soap operas and cat videos. The station's AI chose that moment to interject, but seriously, how could Sandra leave Brad for Victor? After everything they've been through. You infiltrated our most secure facility, Supreme Archon. Bright's bioluminescent patterns were flashing in what appeared to be Morse code. Force OS. Infiltrated is such a strong word, Marcus mused. We just walked in. Your security was so focused on looking for high-tech espionage that nobody questioned the guy with a toolbox and a name tag that read "Not a spy." Sometimes the best way to hide is in plain sight. He pulled up another display, showing the station's defensive systems. Now, about those supposedly impenetrable shields of yours. Turns out they're very susceptible to what we call the Windows Update strategy. Every time we pushed a system update, we included a tiny change that made your defenses just a little bit worse. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Except the paper cuts are software patches and the death is your entire security infrastructure. Ambassador Kex's water sphere was now producing waves that suggested severe anxiety. But our technological superiority... Oh, that's the best part, Marcus laughed. Remember how we kept accidentally broadcasting our technological breakthroughs on public channels? Those weren't accidents. We wanted you to see exactly what we were capable of, but we presented it in such a ridiculous way that you'd never take it seriously. He brought up footage of various Earth experiments, like that time we achieved stable fusion by modifying a toaster because someone said it would be funny, or when we cracked quantum teleportation while trying to find a better way to deliver pizza. You were so busy laughing at our methods that you never stopped to consider our results. The council members watched in growing horror as Marcus methodically revealed how every single one of their defensive systems had been compromised. The quantum shields now responded only to Earth memes. The automated defense turrets had been reprogrammed to perform synchronized dance routines. Even the emergency escape pods had been modified to play the final countdown during launch. But perhaps my masterpiece, Marcus said with evident pride, was convincing your entire bureaucracy that the best way to process human diplomatic communications was to hire an interpretive dance expert. Do you have any idea how hard it was to keep a straight face during those meetings? High Admiral Voss had gone from pale blue to practically transparent. Why? Why go to all this trouble? Because, Marcus explained, you gave us exactly what we needed: time. While you were busy looking down your various appendages at us, writing reports about our primitive ways, and filling out forms in triplicate, we were systematically taking apart your technology and improving it, sometimes literally. That new quantum processor you're so proud of? We built it out of parts from 6 different alien coffee makers. He pressed a button, and suddenly all the station's lights changed to disco mode. For example, your power grid now runs on what we call party protocols. It's 30% more efficient than your old system, and it comes with a built-in light show. You're welcome. The council chamber's doors slid open, revealing Admiral Winters striding in, flanked by Earth Marines who were somehow managing to look both professional and like they were having the time of their lives. Oh good, you're here, Marcus brightened. Admiral, I saved the best part for you. Winters stepped forward, her galaxy's okayest Admiral mug still in hand. Members of the council, I believe it's time we discuss the terms of your surrender. But first, would anyone like to hear about your station's extended warranty? The collective groan from the council members was interrupted by the coffee maker. Hey, why did the alien go to the party? Because it wanted to plan it. Get it? Planet, planet, planet. I'll be here all week, folks. Marcus turned to Admiral Winters. Should we tell them about the karaoke system we installed in their main weapons array? Let's save something for the after party, Winters winked. After all, we wouldn't want to spoil all the surprises at once, would we, Brad? The station's AI immediately responded, no, ma'am. But speaking of surprises, can we talk about what happened on yesterday's episode of Days of Our Lives? Because I have thoughts the Grand Council chamber had seen better days. The once pristine space now looked like the aftermath of a party where someone had spiked the punch with chaos itself. In the center of it all stood Admiral Jessica Winters, casually sipping from her coffee mug, while Marcus Blake distributed what appeared to be tourist brochures to the shell-shocked council members. Now then, Winters began, setting down her mug on what had once been High Admiral Voss's ceremonial podium, but was now sporting a bumper sticker that read "Honk if you love Earth. Let's discuss the terms of your surrender. Don't worry. We've prepared them in both standard diplomatic format and interpretive dance. Your choice." I, Admiral Voss, whose ceremonial robes had given up all pretense of dignity, slumped forward. "What are your demands?" First off, Winters smiled. "We're keeping the station. We've already started renovations. The East Wing is being converted into a laser tag arena, and we're putting in a food court specializing in cuisine from every known species. The coffee maker insisted on having its own comedy club." "Thank you. Thank you," the coffee maker chimed in. "Remember to tip your server processes." Second, she continued, "Earth is now officially recognized as a senior member of the galactic community. We've already filed all the paperwork, and by filed I mean we taught your computer systems to do the Macarena every time someone tries to object." Marcus stepped forward, holding up a tablet. "We've also taken the liberty of updating the Galactic Concordat's official mission statement. It now reads to boldly go where no bureaucracy has gone before, but this time with better music and less paperwork." Third, Winters counted off on her fingers, "We're implementing what we call the No More Space Mean Girls protocol. Everyone gets a seat at the table, even the species you thought were too primitive to count. Yes, including the ones that haven't figured out FTL travel yet. Sometimes the best ideas come from people who haven't learned what's supposed to be impossible." Ambassador Kex's water sphere had developed what looked suspiciously like a stress headache, which was impressive for a being without a head. You can't just change the entire galactic order. Actually, Marcus grinned. According to Form GC7 billion, subsection 42, paragraph 13, which we filled out in interpretive dance while doing backflips through a quantum field, we can. We even got it notarized. The notary was very impressed with our choreography. But most importantly, Winters' voice took on a more serious tone. "We're implementing a new approach to galactic diplomacy. Less bureaucracy, more communication. Less looking down on primitive species. More learning from each other. And definitely more potluck dinners. You haven't lived until you've tried Earth tacos." The council chamber was silent, processing this radical shift in the galactic status quo. Finally, Supreme Archon Bright spoke up, her bioluminescent patterns showing a mix of resignation and curiosity. "Why are you being so reasonable about this? You could demand anything." Winters smiled. "Because that's not who we are. Yes, we could demand tribute, or territories, or whatever else conquering species usually ask for. But humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to win fights, it's our ability to turn enemies into friends. Preferably over good food and bad jokes." Speaking of bad jokes, the coffee maker interjected, "Why did the alien go to the doctor? Because it had a case of space jam." "Thank you," Kevin Marcus patted the coffee maker. "We're still working on his material." "My name isn't Kevin," the coffee maker protested. "Yes, but you look like a Kevin." Winters cleared her throat. "The point is, we're offering you something better than conquest. We're offering partnership. Earth brings creativity, innovation, and the ability to solve problems in ways that give physicists headaches. You bring centuries of experience, established infrastructure, and hopefully some sense of direction, because let's be honest, we're making most of this up as we go along." She gestured to the station around them. "Look what we managed to do while you weren't taking us seriously. Imagine what we could accomplish working together. Although maybe with fewer dance numbers. My fleet is getting tired of practicing the choreography." High Admiral Voss looked up, a glimmer of understanding finally dawning in his eyes. "You never wanted to conquer us. This whole thing was just to get our attention." "Well, that, and we really wanted to see if we could make a quantum defense system run on memes," Marcus admitted. "Turns out we could. The power of spite is surprisingly compatible with quantum mechanics." "So," Winters spread her hands, "what do you say? Ready to try something new? And before you answer, remember that your only alternative is trying to explain to your superiors how you lost your most advanced space station to a species that treats physics like a suggestion and won your fleet over with dance moves." The council members looked at each other, a mixture of resignation and cautious optimism spreading through the chamber. Finally, High Admiral Voss stood up. straightened what was left of his ceremonial robes, and managed a slight smile. I believe he said carefully that we would be honored to partner with humanity, though perhaps we could start with something smaller than interpretive dance. Excellent. Winters beamed. Marcus, break out the welcome packages. Marcus began distributing gift bags to each council member. Inside you'll find Earth's traditional peace offerings, a coffee mug with a funny saying, a subscription to our streaming service because you need to catch up on our shows, and a voucher for 1 free dance lesson. Also, Kevin insisted on including his demo tape. It's my tight 5 about space traffic, the coffee maker announced proudly. Why did the asteroid belt need therapy? Because it had too many rocky relationships. As the council members tentatively explored their gift bags, Winters raised her coffee mug in a toast. To the beginning of a beautiful friendship. May our future be filled with innovation, cooperation, and slightly fewer bureaucratic forms. Although Marcus added with a wink, we did keep form GC7 billion. The interpretive dance version is going to make an excellent anniversary tradition. And so began a new era in galactic history, marked by the unusual but effective combination of human creativity and alien expertise. The coffee maker went on to become a moderately successful comedian, specializing in tech support humor. The station's AI finally got closure on its favorite soap opera storylines. And every year, on the anniversary of the surrender, the entire Earth fleet performs a synchronized dance number, just to remind everyone that sometimes the best way to handle a situation is to think so far outside the box that you forget boxes were ever a thing. As for Form GC7 billion, it's now displayed in the Station Zero Museum of Galactic History, right next to a continuously playing video of the original interpretive dance performance. The plaque beneath it reads, "Sometimes the most important diplomatic breakthroughs come with a soundtrack."